we need to talk about the secret meeting that took place in Maranello before leaving for Austin. In fact, we needed to reconstruct the situation within Ferrari, and especially to better understand the statements made in the press conference by Vasseur, Hamilton and Leclerc. So let's take a step back. Let's look at Vasseur's meeting, where he clarifies his position on Horner. Then we see the cohesion within Maranello, so we can better understand Lewis Hamilton's statements, who spoke out directly on the matter. And then, we obviously also need to talk about Lando Norris and of course, the situation at McLaren, because Norris was the one responsible for what happened in Singapore, where Oscar Piastri prevailed. In fact, there will be consequences for Lando Norris that have not been publicly clarified, but which make us understand that papaya rules have not disappeared. Despite McLaren winning the Constructors' Championship, team orders still exist. And honestly, I'm not satisfied with this because I would like to see a free championship. Having said that, we will discuss it better later. Think of me when you leave a supportive like. And now let's see everything in detail. There's a new chapter in the Horner saga at Ferrari. This time we are not talking about hypotheses or press leaks, but about a real and apparently quite tense meeting that took place in Maranello between Frédéric Vasseur and Ferrari management before leaving for Austin. The topic: the ongoing rumors that suggest Christian Horner is ready to replace him as team principal. And according to sources very close to the team, Vasseur didn't take it well. On Wednesday morning, Vasseur reportedly met with a high-ranking Ferrari executive who works closely with Benedetto Vigna, the CEO of the Cavallino. A closed-door meeting lasting over an hour, organized specifically to clarify the situation and relieve some pressure. During the meeting, Vasseur reportedly expressed his irritation and discomfort about the rumors linking Horner to Ferrari, not only because they publicly question him, but because, in his words, they damaged the image of the entire team. A simple concept. When your team principal's name is in the newspapers every week next to the word replacement, internal stability wavers. But what is behind the tension? The rumors exploded after the Singapore GP, when some British media talked about a loss of confidence from John Elkann towards Vasseur. According to leaks, Ferrari's president is considering Horner as a potential replacement, convinced that the former Red Bull can bring back the winning mentality of the glory days. But the truth is different. Ferrari has already renewed Vasseur's contract until 2027, just after Horner's separation from Red Bull. A very clear sign of trust, at least until a few months ago. Yet the 2025 results have put everything back into question. No wins, Hamilton still without a podium, third place in the Constructors' Championship, a massive gap behind McLaren, and Mercedes now solidly in second. In short, the ideal ground for doubts and pressures to arise. What emerged from the meeting? After Vasseur's outburst, the management reportedly tried to reassure him. He was promised more media support from the team to try to curb the ongoing speculations in the Italian press. But, according to the same sources, Ferrari has no intention of issuing official statements to defend him. An implicit but clear message. We support you, but we can't stop the rumors. Meanwhile, Vasseur has let it be known that his irritation is not only about his personal position, but especially about the effect these rumors have on the team's morale. A climate of uncertainty that risks destabilizing the team at the most delicate moment of the season. For his part, John Elkann is in an uncomfortable position. Replacing Vasseur now would mean questioning the entire technical project that he himself approved. Moreover, Horner couldn't even work with Ferrari before 2026 due to his gardening leave period imposed by Red Bull. Firing Vasseur today would therefore be a huge risk, both economically and politically. And Lewis Hamilton knows this well, as he has already openly stated that these rumors don't help and distract the team. Leclerc has also expressed the same frustration. It's a difficult time, there are many things being said about Ferrari, and honestly, I don't understand where they come from. But it's not just about Horner. I just want a clean weekend to get back to talking about the track. This is what Charles Leclerc said, stating that the priority is to restore order in the garage after weeks in which every interview seems more like a political than a sports conference. And while fans are divided between those defending Vasseur and those dreaming of a Horner coup, inside Ferrari the message is just one: regroup. What is Vasseur really risking? Although the agreement until 2027 seems to secure him, Vasseur's future is not completely safe. They know this well in Maranello. If Ferrari were to end the season without even one victory, internal support might start to waver. After all, it's the numbers that speak clearly. McLaren dominated with 650 points, Mercedes is second with 325, and Ferrari is stuck at 300 with Hamilton still without podiums, and the pressures will inevitably grow. For now, Elkann and Vigna have chosen the path of continuity. Vasseur will be the one to lead the team into the new 2026 era, with a car finally designed entirely by the new technical director Leclerc, one of the key figures who joined Mercedes thanks to Frederic Vasseur. The real issue is Ferrari's image. In the end, all this is not just a matter of names. Ferrari is experiencing a moment of fragility, and any rumor about a change in direction becomes fuel for the press. Vasseur knows this, and wanted to meet the management before leaving for Austin. To say enough doubts and enough uncertainties. He wants to give the team a message of strength and stability. And now it's up to the track to prove that the trust was not misplaced. Before hearing the statements at the press conference from Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, we must also open a parenthesis on Matteo Togginali, who has been questioned in recent weeks, and there seem to be consequences on his role. After weeks of rumors, tensions, and private meetings between Vasseur and the management, Matteo Togginali, the head of Ferrari's track engineers, is now in the spotlight. A key man during the race weekend, but according to various sources, he might change roles in 2026. A heavy piece of news because it touches one of the most delicate points of today's Ferrari: execution. The problem is not the car, it's how it's managed. Vasseur has been repeating it for months, almost like a mantra. The SF25 has potential, but we can't bring it together. We've heard this phrase 1,000 times. And behind all this is the sense of Ferrari's crisis. It's not a problem with the car, but how the team translates technical work into concrete results on the track. And this is where Togginali comes in, the man who coordinates engineers and operational decisions during the weekend. Strategies, tire management, timing of exits, and setup adaptation. Everything goes through his group. And when something goes wrong, like in Singapore, in Baku, the spotlight is on him. What really is execution in Formula One? When we talk about execution, we mean the ability to transform theoretical strategy into real performance. Not just pit stop tactics, but every micro decision that defines the weekend, the management of tire sets, aerodynamic load choices, the timing of qualifying laps, and responsiveness to race contingencies. Red Bull, for example, is a master at this. Even when the car is not perfect, it always maximizes the result. In Barcelona, Verstappen had set up a perfect race on 3 stops, but an unexpected neutralization ruined everything. Despite this, Red Bull had a backup strategy ready. Ferrari, on the other hand, too often remains flustered, reacts but does not anticipate. And it's right here that the internal discussion begins. In a team that continues to change people and roles, the risk is creating scapegoats every time something goes wrong. According to some, Togginali would be just the latest victim of a system that cannot evolve. He is an experienced technician, raised in Maranello, respected in the paddock. But in 2025, Ferrari too often suffered from evaluation errors, lack of readiness, and conservative choices. And in Formula One, when performance doesn't arrive, someone has to pay. In this case, the criticisms don't come only from the press. Even Hamilton, after the qualifying in Singapore, was very clear. We are not executing well. We lack coordination and responsiveness in decisions. We need to improve as a group. The Togginali case is not just a change of role. It is the symbol of a Ferrari that still has to understand how to truly win in the modern era of Formula One. Even Frederic Vasseur said a few weeks ago that the potential is there, but until we transform it into results, it means nothing. And in Maranello, now this applies to everyone, even Togginali. And after the meeting on Wednesday between Vasseur and Ferrari's management, the drivers were obviously also informed, both Hamilton and Leclerc, who strongly defended Frederic Vasseur in the press conference. Hamilton shuts down the rumors about Horner. Just a distraction for Ferrari. In fact, the 7-time world champion wanted to put a definitive end to the rumors linking Christian Horner to a future at Ferrari, openly siding in defense of Frederic Vasseur. They're just a distraction for the team, he said. And with that statement, he brought everyone back down to earth. Horner's gardening leave deadline had been agreed upon for spring 2026. For this reason, many saw Christian Horner as the future team principal of Ferrari. Being a very successful team principal, many said that John Elkann had considered this choice. But during the Thursday press conference in Austin, Hamilton was direct as always. I don't know where these rumors come from, so I can't add much, but they are a distraction for us as a team. Ferrari has been clear in wanting to continue with Fred, and him and then the whole team are working hard for the future of the project. These things don't help. They are simple but heavy words. Hamilton wanted to openly defend his team principle, showing trust and unity right at the moment when the team is under the most pressure. Lewis reiterated it decisively. I try to keep the focus on the real objective, the car next year, and lay the foundations for 2026. In short, the Briton knows well that 2026 will mark a change of era with the new hybrid power units and the arrival of the simplified aerodynamic regulations. And in that context, the Ferrari-Hamilton project cannot afford background noise. Frederic Vasseur has just been confirmed with a multi-year renewal, and the idea is clear: to build a winning cycle around Hamilton and Leclerc without rushed revolutions. And Lewis' words are actually an internal message. Enough distractions and enough external voices. While Leclerc, at a press conference, expressed his opinion on the Austin weekend, where he wants to aim to return to the podium. Leclerc energizes Ferrari. He said, "Let's take advantage of the sprint, and I want to get back on the podium." Indeed, Charles Leclerc arrives in Austin with only one goal: to turn the page. He celebrated his birthday on Thursday, and after several difficult races and a negative trend that dampened the enthusiasm at the start of the season, the Monegasque wants to bring Ferrari back to where it should be, on the podium. And he says it with the determination of someone who knows they still have something to prove. Indeed, a year ago, right here in Austin, Ferrari had a perfect weekend. A historic 1-2, Leclerc first and Sainz second. A Sunday of absolute dominance, the last real team victory before a long period of ups and downs. Of course, there was also Sainz's victory in Mexico. Since then, however, everything has changed. The SF25 did not keep its promises and the team lost pace compared to McLaren, Red Bull, and even Mercedes. But Leclerc doesn't hide. Charles admitted to the media, "Given our current performance, repeating a 1-2 seems difficult, but we will give it our all to move forward after several tough races." We are all extremely motivated. Leclerc knows that Ferrari is no longer the best car in 2024, but he believes the sprint race format could help them. The sprint weekend could help us be protagonists. We must focus on every single detail. The goal is the podium. And that determined yet clear tone shows that Leclerc is not content with just limiting the damage. He wants to fight again. Austin, however, offers a concrete chance, a track where mechanical grip matters more than power, and where Ferrari, with the updated package, could finally become competitive again. Regarding market rumors, Leclerc was clear. He nipped it all in the bud. "I love Ferrari and I want to win in red. 2026 will be a key year. We need to start on the right foot, also thinking about the following four. I don't give weight to what's being said around." In short, for Leclerc, the Austin weekend is more than just a Grand Prix. It's a test of pride. If Ferrari can find the right balance, especially on medium-long pace, the podium is not a mirage. But let's also talk about the papaya rules that have returned and the warning received by Lando Norris. Finally, the decision has come. Lando Norris was officially warned by McLaren for the contact with Oscar Piastri at the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. An apparently harmless episode. But within the team, it triggered the alarm. Andrea Stella had already promised it after the race. "We will calmly analyze everything and draw our conclusions." And the conclusions have now arrived. Let's go over that moment. Turn 3, Singapore. Norris tries to squeeze through a very tight gap, but in doing so, he touches Verstappen's Red Bull and then his teammate's McLaren. A small bump, no serious damage, but the message is clear. The team's internal rules have been violated. McLaren has never hidden its precise philosophy. No contact between the papaya cars. And even though Marina Beno's was a real incident, the pit wall wanted to immediately make a firm point. The confirmation came directly from Norris at the Austin conference. With calm but firm tones, the Briton admitted his guilt. "The team held me responsible for what happened, and it's an assessment I consider correct. We talked about possible consequences and what we need to avoid in the future. The last thing I want is to risk being out of the race because of unnecessary contact. No public sanction, but a clear message. Singapore was a mistake and it must not happen again." According to some sources, Lando received a sort of internal yellow card, a disciplinary warning more than symbolic to reiterate that even minimal contact between teammates is unacceptable. So what are these McLaren rules? The rules are simple but strict. Never touch at the start, no unnecessary risks between teammates, and total collaboration within the team. Norris knows it and has said it himself. "Since I've been in Formula 1, I've always tried to avoid contact. It's one of my strengths and I want it to stay that way." In Woking, they strongly believe in this philosophy. For them, internal cohesion is what has transformed a struggling team into a title machine. And for this reason, every small crack is taken seriously. After Norris's words, Oscar Piastri also responded, with a slightly different but equally clear vision. The Australian confirmed that the team's analysis was clear. Lando took responsibility, and the team acknowledged it. It clearly emerged that what happened from the first lap is not what we want as a team. A diplomatic but not cold comment. Oscar also emphasized that the debrief was constructive, and that there are no favoritism in McLaren. However, he implied that internal hierarchies are felt, even if no one will say it openly. I don't believe there was anything intentional. It was a small error in judgment, but we know how we must race, and if we don't respect the rules, we will face the consequences. Translated. Trust remains, but patience has a limit. The reality is that McLaren is balancing between harmony and internal rivalry. On one hand, a young, motivated and united team. On the other, two drivers aiming for the title and not intending to give any discounts. Stella and Brown know this well. They don't want another Mercedes 2016. This is why Singapore became a collective lesson. No drama, but a strong message. McLaren's success comes before personal duels. Norris concluded the topic with a phrase that perfectly sums up McLaren's philosophy. There was a space and I tried. What happened, happened, but nothing changes in our way of racing. We just have to avoid it happening again. The message is clear. Norris will continue to attack, but with more caution. Piastri accepts the explanation, but he will keep his eyes wide open, and the team will do everything to prevent the internal battle from degenerating. Because in Woking, they know. Two such strong drivers can only win together if they stay united. In short, at McLaren, a red line has been drawn not to be crossed after Singapore. In my opinion, they were very exaggerated in morally sanctioning Lando Norris, giving him this yellow card and making him feel inferior. But he himself doesn't have the character to react. He's not a Max Verstappen of the situation. Norris suffers more from the competition and rivalry with Piastri, whereas a driver like Verstappen or even Lewis Hamilton himself would have eaten his teammate alive. In this case, I see Lando Norris strongly suffering from Piastri, and the team trying to stay neutral, although so far they have always slightly favored Norris on several occasions that have repeated this year. Let's think, for example, of the pit stop in Monza. So the papaya team wants to try to stay neutral. The papaya rules remain to ensure respect among drivers. Norris also said that he will continue to make his attacks, but without going beyond the limit. But we'll see, because in Formula 1 it's hard to stay calm. When you're on the track, you want to give it your all and try to win at any cost. We'll see how Norris will react. The fact is that Piastri has shown to have more control over the team at this moment. In fact, he is bringing the team to his side, trying to emphasize that these internal clashes are not good for McLaren's image. Even though I honestly would like to see two drivers within the same team fight on equal terms and with full freedom like in 2016, without team orders. Because the papaya rules, let's be clear, ruin the show. I can still understand when the Constructors' Championship is at stake. It's part of Formula 1 to give team orders if a driver can finish further ahead to bring more points to the team. But when the Constructors' Championship is settled, let these drivers fight on the track, let them race freely. Otherwise, they become too manufactured, too artificial races with a tailor-made show where they try to avoid any possible internal battle. Let me know your opinion in the comments on all the topics we've covered in the video, from the secret meeting in Maranello to the press conference statements by Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. And of course, tell me your thoughts on the clash between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri and the warning given to the British driver. I'm curious to read and respond to all your comments. As always, I remind you to leave a like, subscribe, and activate notifications so you don't miss any videos on the channel. That's all from Rastro. See you in the next video.